Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. John Kelly, profiler here, and welcome. Welcome to today's show, Blood and Rejection. We know that there was a lot of blood coming out of that house. There had to be a lot of blood in that house up in Idaho on the college. Really, really upsetting. And rejection, blood and rejection, because we know Bryan Kohberger, who was innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, had a lot of rejection early on in life and through life. Okay. And we'll talk about that. Please hang with us. We're going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger in death. But first, I want to bring out about our new link. I'm excited about our new channel. We'll have a link to it up there for you. Thrive. You remember Thrive, some of you do, I'm sure. It is our channel to deal with the worst serial killer out there, which is addictive illness. Okay. Addiction kills more people than any serial killers do. So it's very important to check this out if you have a loved one or family member that you're concerned about that may be involved in addictive illness, maybe using substance. Check it out. We're going to be doing it weekly. We're going to be doing a weekly show on there. And please tell us what you think about it. If you like it, like it. And of course, if you like, subscribe. Most importantly, this is my legacy. If I can do it and I can recover from a horrible cocaine addiction, guess what? You that are suffering out there from any kind of addiction, you can recover too. All right. If I can do it, you can do it. Bottom line. That's the way it is. The other thing I want to bring out that I think is very, very important is that, how I got into this field, how I got into all this. Well, of course, I had a cocaine addiction. That's what got me into the field because I started to do volunteer work at an inner city hospital because I wanted to help other kids. I didn't want them to end up like I ended up and destroying their lives and self destructing. Now, while doing that, the director of the hospital asked me if I would like to be a counselor. And I said, well, sure. Okay. I talked over with my wife. She gave me the okay. And then I became a counselor in training, then straight ahead to a counselor, and from a counselor on to becoming a psychotherapist. Of course, I had to go back to college, and that's where I went. During all this, I did a lot of research into what causes addiction. And what causes addiction, I believe, is low self esteem. And I wrote a book on it. I wrote a theory on it. The theory's copyrighted, Low Self Esteem, the Beginning of Addiction. And it became my first book, Warning Signs, a guidebook for parents. I mean, think about it. And all of you out there that are having problems with addiction or depression, think about that internal critic. All right. Think about, feeling inferior or inadequate or insecure and how drugs can alleviate that and soothe that. But anyway, led to my first book, which again was Warning Signs, a Guidebook for Parents, which propelled me in the early 90s onto the Lee Brown Clinton Committee for the Drug Strategy for the country. Okay. So all of us that were involved in the committee or on the committee were asked to go to Boston from our neck of the woods in Jersey and brainstorm for 3 days in Boston and what could be done to help stop addiction throughout the United States. At this time, I want to put out our disclaimer that Bryan Kohberger is definitely interested in, definitely innocent. I'm sorry, talking too fast. Innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Okay, he's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And at this time, we want to send out our deepest condolences to the victims and their families and their friends who've been so affected by this tragedy, this massacre. And that's what it was. This was a mass murder. It was a massacre. Okay. And we want to send our deepest condolences out to Maddie, to Zena, I'm sorry. I want to make sure I say it right, to Kaylee and to Ethan and their families and friends. And God bless you all. I can't imagine what you're going through. And again, you have our deepest condolences. If you like what we're doing, please like us. And if you like following us down these different rabbit holes, subscribe. you will have a good time with some of the stuff we're doing. I have to tell you that I believe this killer that killed these kids in this house was an incel and a fantasy killer. I believe he had a fantasy. I believe he wanted to fulfill his fantasy on one of the girls, and I'm pretty sure it was Maddie, because I am not even convinced that Kaylee was known to be home then by too many people, because I think she was picking up her dog on her way out west to a new job. So I think he's an incel, was very angry, in fact, enraged. And I think this killer, decided to show up with his big knife, which to me was a phallic symbol, and was going to go about his business and, killed one of the girls. And I believe his main target was Maddie, but I can be wrong. Okay. And again, I'm saying this killer. I'm not saying Bryan Kohberger. He is innocent of proven guilty in a court of law. I believe that this killer had a history of rejection by women and girls. We know, supposedly, based on the allegations, that Bryan had a lot of rejection in school growing up. I could even term it as abusive because he was so young and there were a lot of mean, supposedly mean and nasty girls around that were very condescending and teasing him all the time. And that can be very traumatic for a young, overweight boy. There's no question. There's no question about it. You know, if you look around the time of these murders, just around there, okay, we know that Bryan Kohberger was having a hard time. This is what was in the news and alleged by being rejected. I mean, he was being rejected. Now, here's that rejected word again. I'm not just going from school now, where he grew up in, grade school into early high school or whatever. I'm talking about now we're looking at him and going for his doctorate, right, in criminology. And, we're seeing rejection there by his students up at the university in Washington. So, again, here's this rejection word popping up. All right. And, I think the professors talked to him about him not getting along with the students complaining about him. And I think he felt, probably he may lose his job, which he eventually did. And, that was something to really, really infuriate him and really stimulate his anger and rage. All right. Because now you're talking rejection from school when he was younger and how traumatic that was being. Now here he is again. And it looks like he's getting rejected by kids, students, but also, this is going to mean he could lose his job, which he eventually did lose at the college. All right. So, he couldn't get along with his students, so the word goes, and especially female students. So that has me worrying and a little concerned about, this anger and rage that's building up inside of him. This getting fired though would have been a major rejection for him. And him really focusing on coming all this way out to Idaho and Washington, and was at Washington University and losing, his job, right? Because again of rejection from students. So a question I have, and probably all of you have, it was, but we see no proof of it. Was Bryan Kohberger, was he rejected by one of the girls or a couple of the girls in the house? Was he ever, personally rejected by one or two of them? Right. This is a question I'm sure everybody has and is going through everybody's head, because if that is in fact true, that could really push him over the edge and could possibly present a motive for why he attacked one or both of the girls initially, and why, in order, to make sure he didn't get caught and to get out of the house, he killed a couple more people, like Ethan and Xana. I mean, this person that was in this house was running on volcanic murderous rage. This killer, okay, whoever it wasn't even Brian Kohlberger, okay, this killer was running on pure murderous rage. There's no question about it. Because he's running through the house with one big knife he's chopping people up with. So something that goes through my mind is, does this remind him of the past and the abuse and rejection he got as a young boy? I mean, that's really there, from the different girls, the different people in the school he went to. Because that's very traumatic and very abusive. And, this is something that could have lit the fuse, possibly for Brian Kohlberger. Well, for anybody that would commit these murders, it could have been this fuse could have been lit when they were very young, okay, and dealing with this type of trauma, okay. So this is something we have to understand. Anger is very, very interesting feeling, okay. uh, this anger and sense of rejection, let's say by females, it could have been internalized at a very early age, like I said, and could have been pent up and just gaining force, gaining energy in his body. And then, like I said, later came out as volcanic murderous rage. This is what you have to understand. I think one way Brian kept this anger down or these negative feelings down is his alleged use of heroin. All right, because heroin will definitely pretty much take away your anger for a few hours anyway. I mean, you're going to be in Never Never Land and you're not going to be feeling pretty much anything except some euphoria. All right, once you get strung out on heroin. I mean, when you get strung out on heroin, you don't have to think anymore. Heroin will do all your thinking for you, but it will soothe those real negative, um, angry thoughts, and definitely, calm you down to the point of pretty much sedating you. All right. Like in Jim Morrison's song, I was thinking about Jim Morrison's song while I was going over this, Learn to Forget. I mean, very interesting, just very interesting. Like, learn to forget. He wanted to forget. That's what people usually try to do when they're really traumatized. They try to find other ways to get out of, these negative, uncomfortable feelings. And lots of times it can be through, food, or it can be through shopping, or it can be through sex. I mean, gambling, pretty much anything. And certainly drugs. Drugs will help you forget. There is no question about it. And, that's what I'm wondering here. I'm just wondering if when he got into the heroin, it really helped him kind of push that trauma and, that abuse down, and that rejection, like, internalize it and keep it down inside the body, you know. Uh, Unfortunately, well, fortunately first, Brian did recover, absolutely, it looks like, from his heroin use. All right. It looks like he did very well after his heroin use, got himself together physically, continued to keep weight off, was exercising, boxing, working out. Okay. And then academically, he really started to achieve. He left high school, entered a college, and he got a degree in psychology. Well, I guess his degree in psychology, I don't know how much he got out of that, to be honest with you. I don't know how much that helped him, but he did graduate with a degree in psychology, right? So then he continues and he goes on for his master's in criminal justice, and he gets that at the Sales University. So, I mean, how did the master's in criminal justice and heading into criminology help him? I don't know how much he got out of that. We're going to have to wait and see here. I'd like your feedback on it. I wonder, how that helped him in one way or the other. Again, Brian is arrested here, and he is the suspect, and he is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. I'm thinking maybe he buried his demons through his accomplishments after his heroin use. Follow me now. So he's got all these issues going on, and he's carrying all these real uncomfortable negative feelings inside of him. I don't know who he has to talk to because he has a hard time socializing with anyone. He may have gotten a degree in psychology, but a lot of people that have issues think that they're going to work it out by going and getting a degree in psychology. Lots of times, that's not the way it works. You can get a degree in psychology and still have all these emotional issues. You got to lay down on the couch. Okay. You got to lay on the couch. You got to get into therapy. That's how you pretty much get rid of this stuff. And sometimes you need medication. Okay. So maybe he buried his demons through his accomplishments after heroin. Okay. Because being accomplished and accomplishing and going forward and achieving would have been stimulating enough to keep and feeding that narcissism, if he is narcissistic, which I believe he is, feeding that narcissism. And that was enough to keep these negative feelings at bay, right? So at this point in time, again, all these negative feelings that have been with them for all these years are being kind of internalized and pushed down. And now, he's finding relief in accomplishing and moving forward. And he's doing a very good job of it. Okay. Now, the other thing you have to understand is when you bury trauma, you bury it alive. Okay. You can bury it and you can bury those feelings, but those feelings are alive. You actually bury them alive because if you don't deal with it, eventually that trauma, those feelings will come back from the dead and haunt you. That's right. And I've seen people bury stuff for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I've even seen people 30 years or more, okay, where they've buried traumatic incidents and buried some really negative feelings. And eventually they come back alive and they end up haunting the person because they have to be dealt with. Sooner or later, you're going to deal with them one way or the other. You're going to start to find a way to soothe them through, negative or even positive stuff, but they're still there. They're still there. I truly believe you need to turn them into language, talk about them, and then you get rid of them. But I want to hear what you guys think. Okay, I've talked a lot here. All right. And again, most importantly, check out our website. We'll have a link up for Thrive. And for anybody that's suffering from addictive illness in your family or a friend, there's a lot of information we've put up there for you. Check it out, and hopefully it will help you, and hopefully it will help your family or your friends. We put it up as a service for the family, and it's part of my legacy. Again, I don't want to die with all this stuff and not give it back, right? All this information. Okay, thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate you. Can't thank you enough. Please take care of yourself and make it a great day. And until we see each other again, God bless. Thank you.